morning, good evening, good night. Namaskar, everyone who is here today. Thank you all so much for this opportunity of sharing a tad bit of the work I've been doing for the past 5 years. So we came up with this nifty and quite catchy title, Kiirtan as Therapy, Exploring the Healing Power of Chanting. But actually, we're going to talk a little bit about therapy and about Kiirtan in therapy, and not just as therapy. And then the as therapy, it's on your own regard. So if you think of it that way, you can. So we can move forward. Good slide. So who am I? Giving a short presentation. I've been doing Ananda Marga Sadhana for the past 5 to 6 years. And that's the meditation first for about 6 months with Bhavanam Kevalam, as some of you might still do, and then within the system of Ananda Marga, Tantra Sadhana. I'm located here in Brazil, the south of Brazil at this point. And I underwent a graduation course, my second one, on music therapy for the last 4 years. So I've recently graduated, but I've been acting as a music therapist for about 3 years now. And prior to that, I was doing many workshops and encounters which had this quality of chanting, and not chanting only mantras per se, but the sounds which we identify ourselves with. This next Sunday, there will be one that we'll be doing here as well. So I had this graduation on the the State University here in Paraná, and I've been working mainly this time with autistic people on side of the spectrum. And I've had quite a few, over about 50 now, and neurodiverse population. So that's people which have different diagnoses, and they are not fit into the traditional systems because of those different diagnoses. So we have to adapt for them, and music therapy does a good work on that. On palliative care, so people who are facing upcoming death without more treatment options in terms of getting cured, but on palliative care, we do provide relief and acknowledgement and well-being so that we can embrace death in a better way. And groups with elders on some layers now. I'm currently working only on 2, but there's over 20 elder ladies. But I did my field study on one specifically with about 20. And I'll talk more about that soon enough. And of course, as a therapist and have undergone through the university studies, I am also a researcher. So I have quite a few publications in my name, some of them on the Brazilian Journal of Music Therapy, some chapters of books. I have intentions to write this research, which I'm going to show you today, into a book, maybe an ebook. But life has presented me with so many new things these days, and I recently got married, and I'm about to have a child, and so these things they kind of take a turn or another. So I'm more on the acting field than on the writing field now, but still writing something. And of course, as I just said, workshops. I love doing these workshops because they catch up with people who are on the run, and they can slow down a little bit, get a little bit of this practice of art within themselves, with the intentions of building groups, building community, and finding musicality within ourselves on these workshops. And Many of those are done with body music and vocal music, those kind of little games. Yeah, widely inspired by many good artists with which I had the benefit of encounter during my study years. So yeah, so this is the who am I? I've told some of the things I did actually. Who am I guess when we meditate, we know better. But moving forward, uh, we can move on next step. I'd like to.
Damn it.
Something happening.
Yeah, I totally goofed. I'm trying to set up the breakout rooms and I actually accidentally opened them. So I'm trying to close them and unfortunately they won't close for 32 seconds.
That's
Ah!
okay. That's
I'm trying
okay.
to yank everybody back. I've never done that before. Somehow I clicked an incorrect button as I'm trying to assign things. So let me apologize when everybody's back and then we can
Yeah,
continue.
that's cool. Is Krishna Prema?
Uh, let's
Yeah,
see.
she's
I think
she's
we're all
sharing.
back now. I'm sorry, people. I was trying to set up the breakout rooms and I accidentally opened them. So sorry for that interruption, and we'll have breakout rooms later, as you guessed. Please continue.
Oh, thanks. Those kind of things happen. And so I'd like to ask some of you, and you can answer on the Menti as just joining menti.com or using that code above the screen 38195964. If you ever have undergone any kind of therapy, any way that you understand it, so with a professional or just treating something as a therapy, you can answer freely there so I can get a more kind of a picture of if you have not. And so of course on the left side you have yes. So you have the happy little dog waving his head and he's very happy about going to therapy. And then you have number 2 in pink, no, but I'm willing to. So it's open to this idea. And you have not yet. That's a dog which is kind of sad, I don't know, maybe. And not yet and unwilling. Some people are very skeptical about therapies and they think it's not for them. So you can answer freely there so they can have by having this picture of you all that will benefit. And you can also answer on the chat if you don't have access to Menti on your cell phone or any device that you're using, and I'll read those. So we have 3 on yes, very happy dogs. And then you have 1 which is willing to, is open to. 3 that haven't been yet. Okay, so we have a good sample. Oh, another one which has already gone. Good, nice. So we have a good sample. We have about 24 participants. That's 8 which haven't answered. I'm guessing 30%. It's a good enough sample. Oh, not yet. I'm unwilling. That's interesting. Good. So we'll move forward on an extra step here. I have an image. Yeah. So if you've gone through any kind of therapy, what kind of therapy have you gone through? And now, before you answer that, it's an open question. Before you answer that, I'm kind of bringing forth one scope of what therapy might be. Okay, so as a music therapist, and we have many fields of study, and one of them is psychology. We study psychoacoustics, we study practice of music and art, and many others. So neuroscience, but therapy is understood in different ways. But a good way to understand it is as caring. So caring for something. When you're going through therapy, you're caring or growing in a certain direction. So people say, oh no, I practice my gardening, so I take care of my garden and it's very therapeutic for me. That might be for you. So if that's the case, I'll leave it open for you in a way that you can. So have you done something in your life, not specifically with a therapist or understanding it as a therapy, that has this growth effect that cares and nourishes you? Okay, so this is the kind of conversation we're having. And then you can just type in what kind of therapy have you gone through. So you with a psychologist, okay, with a music therapist, with homeopathic thing, or water therapy, heat and cold therapy, auricular therapy. Any kind of therapy will do. And if you think like I do that maybe gardening is kind of therapeutic, that's cool. You can have that kind of therapy as well. Furthermore, we'll dive into that.
I think we have a few answers in the chat also.
Also, a few answers in the chat. Thank you, Krishna Prema. So Shaktideva said yes, he has gone through therapy, psychology, and physiotherapy. Many answers are popping up. So dance therapy. Oh yes, that I guess I know who that is. And psychotherapy, physical therapy, playing music, gardening, hiking, and camping. Good. Homeopathic therapy. That language, that would be like language therapy. Psychotherapy, family counseling, systematic therapy, overtone chanting. Interesting. Systemic therapy. What else? Counseling for issues. Oh, okay. So that's Bach flowers, huh? Okay. Okay, homeopathy, nature as a therapy. Good and interesting. Okay, so having all that in mind, I don't know, maybe we're hitting a little too soon, but we have skipped for the breakout rooms. We're jumping into the breakout rooms now, and we can move forward an extra slide, Krishna, please. Thank you. And as you said that you've gone through some kind of caring, I'll change this therapy into caring for yourself and growth kind of action that you're taking an action, you're doing something with someone or by yourself, which is making you grow and it's caring for you. So have you gone through any of these? You have answered some. And you're going to chat on these breakout rooms about how that has been therapeutic to you. So what do you have done that you're recognizing as having therapeutic effect on your current life? And then talk a little bit back and forth about that. Listen to the others listening and talking about what you're feeling has great therapeutic value. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes. And now Karun will break you into your breakout rooms. I may just take over. So I hope you had a really nice conversation. And well, now talking a little bit about this research which was done. First off, I was just talking to Karun the perspective on therapy that I'm going to have on moving forward is of a music therapist. So, and what is it? So you need to undergo some training and to collect a little bit of information and practice on music therapy to be a music therapist. And on many different parts of the world, it's regulated differently. But the core of the practice as a study field, as an academic study field, it's not older than 80 to 90 years. On the war era, the First World Wars, there were attempts of inducing relaxation to people through the use of music. And then, of course, as it was done on a scientific era, they started to try to understand the correlation of doing something and having certain results. But as it is very subjective to each individual, on music therapy, it's not like hear certain sound, have certain effect. So there's no acceptance of the scientific community on some specific things, laboring some specific results, because as Tantra teaches us, nothing is absolute. So everything is subject to change, people to people, time and place. So, of course, as a music therapist, you get into the spaces and in touch with people, and you have some intention, but you're open to what is going to happen. So this research I done on my graduation was on possible contributions of Kiirtan, and that's Nama Kiirtan with Baba Nam Kevalam, on the quality of life of elder people, on music therapy sessions. So the practice of Kiirtan is inserted and adapted into a music therapeutical context. And the way it was done is I needed to know how to collect that data. So it was done throughout almost 1.5 years of research formatting and then issuing to ethical committees, because it's dealing with health. So it's really serious matter for you to be able to publicize those things and to do research on health. It does take a lot of responsibility, and different people have to be made responsible also. You can just not just do something and publicize it in any way that you want. There are a lot of systems to make that possible. So we needed clear-cut topics to observe, and what we chose were those of WHO Call, and WHO Call is the World Health Organization Quality of Life Assessment. So we took some of those topics, which would be topics of relationship of the person with its past, its present, its future, of solitude and companionship, of attachment and letting go, of relationship to its own spirituality. So on the World Health Organization Quality of Life Assessment today, you have a part which is talking about spirituality, religiosity, and practice in institutions or without institutions. So these were the main topics of observation. And from these topics of observation, I made interviews with every one who was in this music therapeutical interventions. All of them at least 65 years up to 97-year-old, all of them women, on one single institution here in Curitiba. And we had a conversation. I collect this data with recording, and then we moved to 4 sessions of music therapy, individual or in pairs, doubles. And we would do some warm-ups, which are characteristic to music practice, but also music therapeutical practice. that would include body percussion, that would include toning or singing some constant and steady pitches together to warm up the voice. And after that, we would maybe freestyle some kirtan. That meaning they would come up with a melody. I would present the content of kirtan for them. So we would I did not term as kirtan for them. So I would say, oh, we're going to sing these 3 words because they are representative of this and this and this. So Baba meaning what is most beloved for you, or that which you hold dearest. And of course it changes because I'm translating on the go. Nam as in name, because when you call someone's name, you're calling, and in Portuguese is nome, so it's very easy to understand the meaning. And Kewalam as, which is the weirdest of them all, and I would present it as everything or only. And it's weird because it's everything, but it's just about that. And so I would have this presentation. It's an icebreaker so that it would get into understand and be more okay to sing those words. Because if you just sing and they don't understand the words, it may just shock, which is not the point in therapy. And on those sessions, at least, it might be. And so they would sing those words freely, and in some cases I would just present the words. I have 2 out of 12, 2 of them I just presented the words and they just started singing. They had never been in contact with any kind of this tradition as far as the interviews told, and they would just sing. I just presented the words and they started singing. And then I would follow them up with some acoustic guitar background so that it really bringing more depth and atmosphere, that they would feel comfortable, so they're not alone on that thing. So giving rhythm, giving a proper harmonic pairing makes them feel more comfortable, as far as music therapeutic studies show. So they would start singing, and after singing, there were 4 sessions in total. In some sessions, they would just sing and they would tell me what they felt, if they felt anything. Moving forward, they were encouraged to clap along. Moving forward, they were encouraged to close their eyes. And on the last session, we did a kind of proto-meditation on Bhavanam Kevala, breathing in and breathing out. And we had many different and very, very interesting results from that. And organizing that, the more formal aspects of having that written on paper, we have to follow some methods. So I would characterize and bring some trees of the way of organizing that data. Mind you, many, many hours of recording. So you have to transcript everything and find common words and common happenings on those to try and intertwine that with what you understand, your biographical and practical background of music therapy and any other sciences. So what I used to base off my study was, of course, neo-humanism as a philosophical standpoint. So the view of who are the subjects of research and what is my worldview greatly impacts qualitative research. So my worldview was that of a neo-humanistic place, which, of course, some of you know better. All resources of the world are for everyone. So I'm really hoping for something good for these people. And the subject view is that of an I, which is common to everyone. So I see myself in the other. And from that standing point, whenever I'm talking about the results of this research, I'm really talking about perceptions of my ego, but of one who is following along and feeling the things that people are feeling as best as it can. Okay, So this is important on a study basis. Mainly qualitative studies, they're tricky. And then I had some expositions of some very renowned scientists on music, on ethics, and on aesthetics. So that's Reuter says that whenever a subject, a person, it transcends the barriers of what is beauty, art converges it and assimilates it. So that really talks with when Sarkar says discourses on superstatic science and what Kiirtan really is. So you're going beyond the pure aesthetics. You're going beyond what the form of the things is telling you. It assimilates you. Sometimes because it's overwhelming, but sometimes because it's very, very simple. And I'll come back to that on the ending of the presentation. And of course, I had to challenge Academy on how on the concept of I and what is that I that observes. So I'm talking from a perspective of a person who started studying music therapy because of Kiirtan. So of course it's highly influenced. So whenever I'm showing this to the academic community, I'm highly influenced by my experience on Kiirtan, and I had to take some quote unquote step back from all of that to be able to present it to people, and I had to challenge some places, trying to converge them to, and I'll explain that. So René Descartes, he says in writing, cogito ergo sum. So that's I think, therefore I am. And I had to amplify that concept with what New Humanism as a philosophy says that the subject is. So Baba, he tells us we are not this one who is just the result of our actions. We're not that one which is taking actions. We are this I which is the result of consciousness. So we are consciousness of this I, so that's what we really are. And I had to go from that point to try to cope up with the possible results of the research. Mind you, this goes before I got the results. And after, I'll talk about some of those. After I got the results and what these elder ladies were talking about, what they felt and what they saw in their inner eye, I had to have this standpoint. I had to go through this kind of worldview, because it's just not a matter of thinking. It's a matter of observation. So there's a heavy ideological perspective on the research itself, and it made thinking devotional. And I had to explain that to people, what that devotion is, because of course I'm directing my thinking to this idea of this world is one, because it's product of consciousness of everyone. And so I had to explain devotion inside of that context also. And the way I did it was using devotionis, which would be the Latin term for the duty of acting. So that's the action that you take because you have a duty to do so. And you have a duty to act based on that which you love the most. Is that which you actively perceive as being more important to you. And so that was the concept of devotion that I brought forth, and was good enough so that I could encompass all of those worldviews that were different from mine, of those ladies and of those on the academy. That meaning, I have some people were talking on chat, I just must see. Okay, so because of course I had people with different religious backgrounds, and all of them had some concept of their own about what devotion is and what they should be doing and what's their role in life, the life that has gone, life that's coming, death that is coming, because they're on advanced age, but they want to live, and some of them not. Some of them have already coped up with the fact that they're going to pass away. And now, okay, so I told you a lot about of the scientific Lada and how I made it possible to talk about Kiirtan inside of the academy. But I'd like to go forth and tell you a little bit of the results that we had. I'll jump some of this data that I have here. So, okay, four encounters. The first one, we had the introduction to the ideation of Baba and Kelvalam, as I just told. I gave them a harmonic bass, like a grounding, like G major, D, and just going back and forth for those who understand music. And going back and forth, and maybe whenever I heard that we were doing some toning and warming up the voices, when I saw that their comfortable pitch was somewhere higher or lower, I would try to adapt this harmony so that I could sing with more comfort. And the rhythms, there's a little thing that we call entrainment. So we were doing rhythms, and whenever I saw their pulsing and breathing, I would conduct the pace of the melody and the harmony with their rhythm. So I'm doing Kiirtan in a way that it matches their voice level, it matches their rhythm, their breathing rhythm, their natural rhythm, the exterior one at least. And we would improvise or have a structure melody. So I had some tunes in mind, but sometimes they would start singing on their own, and I would just follow up, and of course they would singing up and down, and that was the first encounter. Second encounter, we had the vocal warm-ups and breathing, so that helps the control of breath, and that I would talk a little bit about that, and diaphragmatical breath and intercostal and thoracic expansion, all of that. So it really helped them have more in depth of their experiences. On the third encounter, we worked with rhythm, that of clapping and foot stomping. And so recognizing and getting the body involved. So many of them, they cannot stand up and sing and do Lalita Marmika. So I had to adapt something. And I would, for those that could, I would try to make them step accordingly to the rhythm, or try to match their rhythm when we were playing. And on the fourth encounter, as I said before, we had this receptive moment. So they would just close their eyes and I would sing a preferred melody for the moment. And then they would drift away on a proto meditation, breathing with the mantra. So that would be an analogy to meditation. That's how I termed it. There was over 6 hours of recorded material. Many words came after that. And some of the more interesting ones were expositions of the relationship to people. So they would open up to talk about the relationship to people, how attached they were to people, and what were those moments and people that they loved the most, so that they would recognize as being the ideation for singing. And they felt a lot of presence. So some of them said things like, I feel like I'm more present when I'm singing here. And when I'm sitting with my colleagues, I'm just idle and wandering around. But when I'm here, I feel like I'm here. there were people, some of the elders who participated, they had a lot of rigid behavior. So they did not like the proposal at all. They did not want to go and do the Kiirtan practice. But after doing one or two, there was a lot of opening, and they talked about many things, and there were even drops of perceived cognitive level on one of them, that she decided not to go anymore. So she opened up, and she got stressed by the activity. But most of the group did not. It proved to have beneficial effects on them. And some of the sayings, I'll try to translate my better because it's a direct transcription from their audios, and which I got really fond of, was like, I really liked it, but I'm not feeling good as the practice makes me feel. And there was one that said, did it work? I think it did. I felt really well. I think that as it went through and with time, I was singing better. I was getting better. And it's good to talk about love. It's simple. It's short. It's a good thing. I'd like to know these words. Could you write them for me? And some of them said, I felt like I was missing something. I felt sadness because I am missing someone, which is no longer with me. There was some of them, can I do this following up, like doing something while I'm singing this? Because this singing, it feels like I cannot do it if I don't know it properly. It's very different. It's a very good thing, but you have to understand it very well and then apply it to your life. And the same one said it on a next meeting. She said, I'm crying. There's no way. You make me cry. Can you write down these words? It's not really a word, but it's kind of. And some of them were really, really enchanted by the thing. Like they were saying, "Oh, you're such a sweetie," and some of them said, "Okay, that's great. Everything that you're playing, I'm going with you. I love this kind of music. I feel really well. Feels like the soul gets clean and clear. Thank you. Please look for me because I like to listen to this." Some of them said, just after the practice of Kiirtan, they just shouted like, "I really love my children." And one of them said, "My children, my grandchildren, that's what comes the most to my head when I'm singing. It's a really good feeling of friendship, of joy, and of love." Then this next one says, "I really went really far. It was fast, so that it happened that way. It really gives me some kind of," let me scroll here, "calm. I felt and I saw myself alone in a very calm playing field." Another one said, "It brings me a lot of peace of spirit and of mind." On an intervention that was done in doubles, one of them just shouted at the end, "Everything is love." Another one said, "It's really beautiful. It's really, really, really beautiful." And now this one is interesting. She said, "It's like you're dancing really up high. I need to remind myself of the lyrics of the song to follow it up. I felt like I was not very connected to it. It was not really here. But then it feels like we just go out a little bit. You are here, and then we're not anymore. Let's see if we can do something better with it. It's complicated, but let's face this challenge. At my age, I think I'm walking on a very, very long path. It's blissful." Then, of course, people saying it brought me a lot of calm. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Thank you, and everything. And then some matters of curious things that I observed also during the practice was, during the practice, breathing showed up to be more on a cadency, more slow. Rhythm was more evident as much as we did. So in the beginning, it was not very structured, but with time, they started to cope up with the rhythm way better. And at the end, not all of them wanted to talk anything. They just want to be still for a while. There was a space which was really asking for some silence. And here in Brazil, we had some, and with elders, of course, we had some issues with pronunciation. So not issues, I'd say some deviations of the original pronunciation. So nam, many of them wouldn't understand it. They would say não, which is no in Portuguese. And I heard tam, so babadam, babadam. And kevalam was the best one. So we have like Mikalyam, Chevalão, Tevalão, e Kevalão. It really changed from one to another. But the same ones that had this kind of different pronunciation, they also said that they felt really good. And there was a little bit of that how rigid they were to the practice and how flexible and open they were with the practice changed during the practice overall. There was one specific one that had this, as I said, this drop of cognitive level. So in the beginning, she was very not welcome to the practice. And we did 2 interventions. She really changed with me. She was aversive to me on the first one. On the second one, she really felt really thankful, and she got my hand, and she was on this state of really watery eyes, and with a lot of thankfulness, she looked me in the eyes and she said, thank you. But then moving forward to the next one, she decided she did not want to participate anymore. My hypothesis, which was, this is just a thing that we cannot confirm, but it's an hypothesis, is that she felt she was too vulnerable. And going forward, that has been proved to be kind of an okay hypothesis, because I talked with people from the elder's place, and she had a nephew which used to play for her, and then they think that he looked a little bit like me. So it really opened up for her, and it was sensitive. It touched her in a place where she did not feel comfortable to share anything else. And then, of course, because she had this rigidity, then she started saying, at the end, we did another interview, and she was denying everything. So she was saying, I didn't see anything. I didn't feel anything. It does not interest me, and I'm not doing this anymore. But most of the others, they said, yeah, I would really, really like to continue if you would come here again, and we would do it again. So let's see if we can do it again. I have to improve a lot. I was really expecting to see you and to sing this again. So this was the word kind of answers to the question, would you like to keep doing this kind of practice, that I did at the end of the 4 sessions, the last interview. Let me see if there's anything else worth sharing. So yeah, this is the gist of it, and we can conclude many things. And when I presented this article, I have the conclusions which I take from it. But I'd like to hear from you, if we still have time, like, what do you deduce of this? And if you have any questions also, please, let's talk a little bit. We have a little time now to have a little chit chat. And then there's a last slide that I would like to show you. And yeah, that's it. So questions, thoughts, please. It's open.
You should be able to just unmute or type in the chat. And share your views and questions.
So those who wanted to continue, what kind of opportunity were they given to continue the practice?
Yeah, good question. Unfortunately, because this was done inside of the university, and it was not a paid thing. I paid to do the research, and I had little opportunity to go back and do it with them, because of course it takes some time. Just recently, I went back to the elders' place and to visit them and to talk to them, to maybe do something voluntarily. But there was not a lot of opening in terms of agenda, because as soon as I graduated, many work fields opened up, and I cannot pay to work anymore. And so, yeah, one of them, that one which had this experience of getting into this, she really said that when we were doing the last session, that she got into this very calm place and very blissful, and she was alone. She termed it that way, like, I'm alone in this very light and calm place. She recently passed away, and many of them, it's difficult to get a quality time to do it on an individual level. When on music therapy, if you're going to work on an individual level with every single elder, it gets expensive for the institution, and they don't have interest in doing this. Most of the institutions here in Brazil, they do some different holistic care or integrated therapeutic care because they are obliged to. They have to follow up with a certain number of hours of certain therapies or treaties, and they do because they have to. So it's hard for them to invest any money. It's a very expensive business to own and manage too. So yeah, that's the scope of doing that.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for asking.
Hiranmaya, I have a question.
Oh, please.
So I know you're educated in this. This is your background, but is this something that you could, like, one of us could adapt to a group of people that we could teach or to share? I mean, is there...
Yeah. So, I was, before just answering that, I was a delegate for the Student Association on the World Federal Music Therapy Counseling and everything. And many music therapists would say, no, please leave it to a music therapist. But I'm not on that team. So I do believe that it can be adapted, and I think it can be done with enough care with anyone, anywhere. I wouldn't disagree with Sarkar. So do the best you can and do Kiirtan as you can. But doing it on a very friendly manner is also really good. So it does not just shock people and clash with their beliefs. We had there people from very traditional religious background, which were singing Sanskrit and feeling good about it because it was brought to them with a lot of care and respect for them, for what they believed was their most beloved one. And that is caring. That has growth potential. It's not just shocking. Whenever Dharanaba Nilananda says broaden the path and smoothing it out, I do believe that whenever we practice Kiirtan, that should be done. Because if we're just singing Bhavanam Kevalam without proper understanding what it is, maybe we're causing more harm than good. I don't know. I can't answer that scientifically. But yeah, please do go away and ask me if you want any help on that. Oh, I'm happy to help. Thank you for this question. It was a really good question. I'm not the owner of Babylon Kevalam to to say do it or do not, right? We're all
Looks like
owners.
we have a looks like we have a message in the chat. It's I think in Spanish.
In Spanish, okay.
What is that one? Give me a second.
Okay.
My daughter Devaki was teaching English in a Montessori school, and she always played Kiirtan for the children for change in attitude, and something happened. Let's see. Let me type in that part, and then second part. And then hear them still saying Babanam Kevalam. So I guess that the children also enjoyed singing. It's the short person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and with children, it has specific and very different effect because they will latch on and sing. I had the experience of teaching and singing with kids too. One thing that is open by the end of this research was different kirtan, because we do have different kirtan and the effects of those, how they would be, right? And I guess everything can be adapted. Of course, some of it might be lost in translation, but dealing with that subject matter in a subject enough way. So we're talking about love or something which is dearest to people. Might be very powerful, and singing gets your whole self involved in it. So that's powerful, and we should think a little bit of it. Which there are many ways to praise and to sing that people are making advantage of.
Yeah.
They can do it in a non-dogmatic way. It would be really good.
I'm Gemma Perry. Dada Pabanito Ananda interviewed Gemma Perry from Australia a couple of years ago.
Yes,
and it might be interesting to dig up that link and maybe post it in the community, Krishna Prema, for people to have a look at.
I will do that. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very thankful. If anyone wants to ask anything else, to share some.
Prakash has got his hand raised.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Namaskar, Hiranmaya. Great to see you.
Yes.
One of the things that I thought was very significant was you talked about how you were explaining Babanam Kevalam, the meaning of it, in a very deeply personal way. It's about a relationship with our most beloved, and that everyone has that relationship. It isn't you have to like, who is this thing? And I had to find some entity or something. I would use that same way of translating Babanam Kevalam is how I introduced to people who I invited to like 3-hour kirtan, who had never been to anything before. And because it's such a universal way of explaining it, people thought, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's singing about that which whoever it is loves them the most, or they love the most, and that's their beloved. And wow, okay. And everyone's an expression of my beloved, or it was powerful because it reduced the barriers. Oh my God, what are people singing to some God or something? I don't know. I mean, a lot of confusion that happens when people don't understand that it's about a personal relationship that everyone has, as opposed to like, oh, these people already know something that I don't know. I think that's important, and that's also how I taught people Babanam Kevalam sometimes. In meditation classes, I would, kind of have them through a guided meditation and a relaxation, and then ask them to identify that experience of being loved or being loving, whichever is most powerful. And then say, okay, that's the meaning of Babanam Kevalam. It's a powerful way for people to start. So it's healing, not just in a therapy situation, but in prachar.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, it's good. Good enough minds think alike. I'm not calling myself great. But yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Bob's mind.
Yeah, so that's great. And so that's a little quote that Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, Baba for many, for me for sure, and says that the science behind that he's talking about Namakirtan, the science behind it is that when you do Kirtan loudly, your mind remains engaged. It cannot do anything else. And well, it did not take me 2 years to realize that, but now it's on paper. So, and I have the opportunity to talk to many about this and practice this as a profession. So we do music therapy, and whenever the window opens to get going that deep, because people are trying to also cope up with many other things, why not? Right? Why not? And so do the best you can with it. I hope this presentation and the talks you had opened up for the use of things in a therapeutic manner, which make us grow and develop. And if you need, always look for someone who has that output and that outcome. That is the meaning of satsang, I believe, at least. And if you cannot cope with making this suggestion to yourself that you're an expression of that biggest love which exists, then pair up with people who do, and that tell you that yes, you are, and that might do wonders. Yeah. So thank you so much for the PLT team, and for, of course, all of you who took your time for this presentation. And my contacts are open. You can always reach me for any kind of conversation on music therapy and life. Why not? And so namaskar, and see you soon.